Stapakaya Ramasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avatarvarishtaya Ramakrishna Yate Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our reverential pranams to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the supreme divine incarnate of this modern age. Let us pray to him to lead us from unreal to the real, to lead us from darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Today's subject is significance of grace. It is very important for us to know how grace plays an important role in our life. Only we must be able to understand it. Then you will be able to enjoy the value of grace. To understand the value of grace, to understand its real significance in your life, you should be humble. Humbleness is very important to know how the grace is flowing on you and helping you in every respect. To begin with, if you sit for a few moments, meditate on the supreme, all-loving, divine form of God, just at that moment, if you feel how blessed you are, you have been able to sit for a few minutes thinking of Him. Once you open up yourself in that fashion, you will see how the floodgates of grace are opened wide. and you will be overwhelmed with grace. You are overjoyed. You feel you are extremely fortunate to be born in this world, in this most wonderful, precious human life. If you understand this, then it means you are allowing the grace to flow upon you. If you feel that this human life is most precious, that means you are allowing God's grace to flow upon you. But it is very important for you to believe in the existence of God. To believe that God exists, you must not be egoistic. It follows you must be humble. Then you will understand the whole creation is going on and on by the grace of God. We are all acting in this world only on account of His grace. Otherwise, it is not possible to carry on our life. So, creation of this world is itself an act of grace. Because He is opening up opportunities for all the individuals to work out perfection, to fulfill their desires, to play their games, to act upon freely as they wanted to do. Is it not a grace? He is allowing us to do freely whatever we think. Of course, while doing we may do mistakes. But we learn through mistakes. Oh, I ought not to have done this. I will not do any more. That awakening comes to you. That awakening comes to you on account of grace. So you have to interpret everything as an act of grace. So that is the meaning of the grace. There are so many ways of understanding this concept of grace. Bhakti, jnana, karma. These are all well established ways to understand grace. Bhakti, the path of devotion. It is love towards the highest. Grace is what flows from the Supreme. There is no casual relation between devotion and grace. Grace is causeless. It needs nothing to provoke or inspire it. It comes by itself, not to be provoked by any external agency. That means The very nature of grace is spontaneous, self-flow, perennial at its source, and free in its course. That is the importance of grace. Bhakti, indeed, it has a necessary association with grace. What is bhakti? It is love of God. The more you love God, the more you understand the function of grace in your life. Bhakti, as I said, is the love of God, and it helps you to come near Him, near the God Supreme. And there is another way, that is surrendering yourself to God. Surrendering. Love of God and surrendering, they are two sides of the same coin. Yet surrender is closer to grace. It is very close to grace in a significant sense. Surrender implies utter passivity of will, which is what is needed for grace to flow in. You must allow the grace to flow in. That's the point. Bhakti is constant remembrance of God. It should be uninterrupted thought of the Divine Lord as the soul of souls and the self of all selves. It implies constant vigilance on the part of the bhakta, the devotee. Its secret lies in keeping your mind and heart open and receptive to the flow of the divine grace. For grace perpetually waits, as it were, at the threshold. The devotee's passivity in total surrender leaves the entrance open to let in grace. Whereas bhakti or devotion deepens the sensitivity of the devotee and heightens his awareness, making it possible to respond to grace. The deeper the devotee's sensitivity, the fuller is the flow of grace. Grace envelops the soul in all conditions and at all times. But there is an accumulated grossness which renders the soul stiff and opaque and incapable of reflecting the light of grace and yielding to its impact. Another important point you should remember, the grace itself has or is a transforming power, cleansing and purifying the soul, removing the dross and restoring its delicate resilience. The rectification and cleansing, this unique capacity to correct and transform, is regarded by the mystic devotee as an special excellence of the Divine Lord. Once one of the close devotees of Sri Ramakrishna came to him and said, "Well, Master, I am not able to concentrate my mind. It goes in terrible directions. Even if I try many times to bring the mind back and fix it on the divine, yet it jumps out and goes away. It is becoming almost impossible for me to continue my meditation. I am passing through a state of inertia. Why? I don't know." So he began to plead this way. Then Sri Ramakrishna looked at him. He knew that the devotee was very sincere and he was practicing spiritual disciplines thoroughly, but on account of some factors he was being troubled by the inherent tendencies of the mind, which that devotee was unable to uproot. So a kind of helplessness he was experiencing in not being able to continue his meditation. When Sri Ramakrishna heard him, immediately he understood. Sri Ramakrishna, the great incarnation, the personification of love and grace, he called him, "Come on, come near to me." The devotee came very near and he touched his head. It worked wonderfully well. The wonderful touch of the Divine Master was enough to uproot all the possible obstructing inherent tendencies in the mind. They all vanished in a second. The devotee felt extremely calm, extremely peaceful, extremely cheerful. He felt immense peacefulness and he felt the value of wonderful grace of the Master. So what did it do here? The grace just cleansed his mind, purified his mind altogether, and paved the way for the liberation. That devotee was none other than Swami Brahmananda, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, the first president of the Ramakrishna mission. So, grace is the basis of all divine excellences. It is otherwise impossible to have any knowledge of the Supreme Paramatman, the Absolute Brahman. Grace is what makes the idea of the Supreme and the Divine real and relevant to man. So, whatever he has, whatever he is a gift of grace, both material and spiritual, all things of the body, mind and spirit. If vairagya, this passion, is a precondition of jnana, knowledge, who gives that vairagya, which is preparatory to the fulfillment of the highest truth? By whom is the great consummation brought about, if not by the Supreme Lord Himself? And in all such contexts, it is the unique glory of the Lord that He works through grace and as grace. Grace secures not the end merely, but the means as well. In fact, it is always said that a person should get initiation from the Guru. He should seek the proper Guru, get his guidance and follow the spiritual path. All the scriptures, all the Mahatmas say this. Why? It is because it is through Guru you can get grace abundantly. Guru is the outlet through which the grace flows. And Guru is able to give that grace to the disciple. So the relation between Guru and disciple is that the Guru transmits the power to the disciple. The transmission is of a new life, a new power, a new force. Whatever be the mode of initiation, the method and manner of transmission, sometimes by looking, they make you think of God, sometimes by touch, sometimes by thought, sometimes by uttering a mantra. There are so many ways of transmitting the divine power to the disciple. The Guru knows how to do it and how to purify the disciple so that the disciple could experience the joy of the divine. So, Grace is the root and base of all power and strength. It is grace that sustains soul and the body. It is grace that keeps the stars to their course. Out of grace has creation emerged. By the grace it is fed and nourished, and in grace lies its fulfillment. The Vedas, the holy scriptures of Hindu tradition, they explain the working of the grace in terms of anand, bliss. Grace at its core is bliss itself. The Upanishads, which deal with the knowledge of divine, reveal that the Supreme is attainable by one chosen by the Supreme Himself. God chooses. That's what spells out the spontaneity and freedom of grace. So what is that is needed to be done by us? All that is needed is be yourself ready, in perpetual readiness. Be ready to receive the grace. That's important. It operates in innumerable ways. You feel the effect of the grace when you turn towards God, when you start nourishing spiritual ideas. In fact, all these fine elements of grace you will understand only when you believe the existence of God. When you have initial faith in Him, it is through Him that you are able to carry on your daily life. That initial faith is important for you to recognize the glory of grace. So, the very impulse to worship God arises from God's grace. Immediately you feel like worshipping. There is an incident. Sri Ramakrishna's father, his name was Kshudiram. He wanted to visit his nephew who was in a place 40 miles away from his village. He wanted to see him because for a long time he did not hear anything about him. So he started from his home early morning on foot. So he was walking fast because he has to cover 40 miles. On the way, he came across a place where there were bilva trees. You know, the bilva leaves are very sacred, and those leaves are offered to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Bilva Priya. He loves Bilva leaves, just as Lord Vishnu loves Tulasi, basil. So he came across a tree where he saw fresh Bilva leaves just springing up. He was so happy to see those leaves. He has already covered about 20 miles walking. But when he saw these bilva leaves, he was overwhelmed with joy, and he stopped his continuing the journey further. He just returned back with those bilva leaves. He plucked the bilva leaves, took them in a bag, washed them in water. So when he came back to home, it was already late afternoon. He had not taken food. Immediately what he did was he went and took bath and offered bilva leaves to Lord Shiva. He did worship. After everything done, then he sat for taking lunch. He was almost in ecstasy. He was so joyful. See how the grace provoked him, gave him an opportunity to worship the divine. And he, being a great devotee, he never missed that opportunity. He worshipped and felt himself highly satisfied. A great devotee indeed. He had lot of visions. He saw many divine forms with his eyes open, not with his eyes closed. So, all the divine forms of God are real. So he could feel more and more the beauty of God's grace. He could enjoy God's grace more. So, how he felt the grace so immensely. There is an incident in Holy Mother's life. Holy Mother is Sri Sharda Devi, the consort of Sri Ramakrishna, who is here on the left side of Sri Ramakrishna. Like Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother also always would absorb herself in divine communion. Her whole personality was full of love and compassion. She was always ready to give grace. She was always ready to give the touch of love towards anybody, irrespective of caste, color, race. Let anybody come. Anybody. That's a very important point. That is how you feel how God's grace is uniform, it is impartial, and so on. Holy Mother used to say, suppose one of my children has smeared himself with dirt. It is my duty to cleanse the body of the child. Who else will do that? I, being a mother, should clean the baby and take it in my arms. So, what she is telling is, to make mistakes is man's very nature. We do mistakes. There is no doubt about it. We keep on doing mistakes in spite of bitter experiences. But few of those who criticize know how to correct them. And again, several among them who come here are up to anything in life. No type of sin has been left undone by them. But when such people come here and address me as mother, these are the words of Holy Mother. She said, I would forget everything and they would get more than they deserve. They would get more than what they deserve. So to get more than what one deserves, to get more than what one deserves, that is the meaning of grace. Holy Mother said, remember that you have a mother here, referring to herself. You can come to me any time. Any time. That is, it is unconditional. You can go to mother any time. That's the beauty of the mother. That is the love of the mother. If you have to see, if you want to experience love, see it in mother. The real mother, what I should say, not the commercial people who throw away the children through the window, who ill-treat and abuse the children. Not such type of people I am referring to. Mother in the real sense. Her whole life is a personification of love and love only. Nowhere on this earth you will find such manifestation of love as you find in mother. Of course, it is very natural for the mother to love her own children. But here is the Divine Mother who loves everybody. From east to west, north to south. Anybody, any being. Not only human beings, even animals, even plants, even trees. Both animate, inanimate. Mother loves, flows equally on all these things. That is grace. That is grace. So she says, just you remember, that remembering must be done by you, then only you will understand the significance of grace. Otherwise, even though there is grace, you won't feel it. Or you may not use that grace. Most unfortunate then. Grace is there, you are not using it. Water is there, you are not drinking. How can you get rid of your thirst? You have to drink. To drink you have to do. That minimum act you should do. So minimum self-effort should be done. So, in fact, by doing that minimum action, you feel how you are able to do that, then you will understand the glory of grace. So Mother says, if anybody comes and calls me, if anybody remembers me as Mother, oh Mother, I am in distress. I am in this terrible mess. Will you please help me? But your prayer must be sincere. Your prayer must be wholehearted prayer. Mother says, I will never reject. I will never reject. These are the words of the Divine Mother. She says, "You are my own." That's why you find, if you study the life of Holy Mother, you read the episode, how Holy Mother treated Nivedita, Margaret Noble, an English lady, a foreign lady, whom Mother did not know before. But how did she treat her? As if she was her own child. And Margaret Noble felt immensely peaceful when she saw the Mother, when she saw Sri Sharda Devi. What tremendous peacefulness in her face. That glory of peace you can find because Mother was full of grace. So, that's what Holy Mother is. So this assurance given by Holy Mother was not an empty one. It's not simply talking. We talk many things, It is not just like that. People who came in contact with her felt it immensely. Felt really they have a mother here who loves them very dearly. So, once they remember her as mother, they were helped and guided throughout their life. Throughout their life. Another important point we have to understand. Let us not get into any confusion in knowing the facts. It has been thoroughly seen how grace is soft in some cases, how grace is tough or stern in some other cases. How to understand this? Or how to say, if a man is suffering, how do you call it is grace? How can you ever think of it? So it is explained. Some diseases are there. They are cured by sweet medicines. But some diseases, you can't cure them by simply taking drugs. They need surgery. But it is to be done. The surgery is done not to kill you, but to cure your disease. But the operations are painful, no doubt. But it is necessary. That means treatment of diseases differs according to the nature of the disease. That's all. That means if a person has horrible tendencies, naturally all those bad tendencies must be taken out. You have to adopt whatever method that is required for that. Sometimes we see parents. Whenever I say parents, mother, father, etc., I am always referring to the model parents. Don't go to the modern times, because I am very much afraid to think how people behave in these modern times. Where is relationship between parents and children? It's all going away. It's a great tragedy. There is no contact. There is no relationship. So, all that fine sentiment, a fine exchange of beauty and joy, they're all going away. People are just living like machines, without any sentiment, without any beauty, without any that wonderful feeling of oneness. Anyway, sometimes we see parents punish their children. Why? Not out of malice, but purely in the interest of the children. They want to protect their children. So sometimes they chastise them in order. It is the punitive aspect of grace is what we call justice. Now we are in the grip of karma as we entertain a sense of I and mine. The moment you surrender totally to the Lord, then karma becomes inoperative. To give an example, a single stone is enough to scatter a flock of crows. One stone is enough. There may be hundreds of crows lying there. Just throw one stone, all the crows fly away in a moment. Likewise, God's grace is enough to destroy one's karma. Whatever karma one might have done, everything goes away by grace. Even as fuel heaped sky high is reduced to ashes by a flame of fire, so does Lord's name destroy completely all the sins. Alike in bondage and in release, it is grace that sustains the souls. It is a grace that leads them from darkness to light. So in one sense, without grace, how is it possible for us to do anything in this world? So, it's very important to understand the concept of grace. The more you understand it, the more you become closer to God. That means you have to be in touch with the spiritual ideas in your life. Then only you will understand the glory of grace. God is always ready to help. Why should there be any incarnation? Tell me. It is because to show the grace. It is because to show us how grace operates. How grace operates. That is why you must read the life of saints, life of incarnations. How these holy people go out of the way to help the people, to lift them from suffering, to show them the way through suffering. You may be suffering, but there is a way to get out of that. You are suffering on account of these things because you are not doing the things properly, so you only are to be blamed. Do the things properly, that's all. Then everything will be okay. So they will show you how to do the things properly. Come on, come this way. They literally lead you in every respect, even to make japa, even to do meditation. Come on, you come, sit with me. Do like this, do like this. I am doing, you do. So practice and precept both go together. In spite of this, we are not able to learn. We are so foolish, so deeply involved in the world, that means in samsara, we just ignore these wonderful teachings of Divine Master, and every now and then we will be in trouble. Naturally, sure. If you walk in the dark, surely you will stumble. If you walk without shoes, surely your foot will be pricked by thorns. What doubt is there? Here we have to follow what Sri Ramakrishna has said. As long as I live, so long do I learn. So long do I learn. Learn, learn, learn. So unless you know these things, how do you learn? Oh, I don't know how, I can't learn. Then I know only to suffer. Then suffer. What else can be done? They suffer and suffer and suffer. Finally they come. Is there nobody to help me? Because he's so egoistic, he doesn't want to approach anybody. Why should I bend my head to him? Why should I? So, as I said earlier, one should be free from ego. You must make yourself ready, proper. You must take steps in a way God's grace flows through you properly. God's blessings, you always seek blessings of God. Sure. But those blessings, you must allow those blessings to percolate in your system. If you don't allow them to go inside your system, they go away. So constant practice, constant remembrance of the divine, constant communication with God, these are all steps to be taken to enjoy the beauty and glory of God's grace. Sri Ramakrishna, out of his infinite grace, has given remarkable teachings, practical instructions, which are all available in the form of Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Read it, take whatever you want and follow it. Whatever you want, you take. It is not that you should take everything and you will not be able to practice anything. Not like that. Take what you want and practice it. That is how we should conduct ourselves. With these words, I conclude my talk, the significance of grace. Thank you all.